Jaya Narasimhadev, Jaya Narasimhadev, Jaya Narasimhadev, Jaya Narasimhadev. Jaya Prahlad Maharaj, Jaya Prahlad Maharaj, Jaya Prahlad Maharaj, Jaya Bhatta Prahlad. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada. Nitai Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaura Hari Bol. श्री श्री नरसिंह भगवान की जय, प्रहलाद महाराज की जय।
श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय। हरि हरि।
Please repeat after me. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Thank you so much for being here with us on this Sunday evening. On behalf of Sri Kishore Kishori and our founder Acharya, Srila Prabhupada, I would like to welcome all of you for our Sunday program. Before we start with the address, I have a couple of announcements. We celebrated 50th anniversary of Kishore Kishori installation last week. It was a 4-day celebration and many of you were able to participate in that. Thank you so much for all of those who participated in whatever capacity you participated. You participated as a guest, you participated as a volunteer, you did some service, you didn't do any service. We still want to thank you for being here with us for that. Now, when is the next festival? 23rd July. And what is the festival? Rath Yatra, Hari Bol. So please mark it in your calendars. 23rd of July, which is a Sunday, will be our ISKCON Chicago's Rath Yatra. We'll be celebrating it at the Loyola Park Beach here. After a couple of years, we are coming back there. So please participate. Yourself, your family, and your friends, they are all welcome. Then summer is generally the time when we have lot of exalted devotees visiting Chicago. We have one such devotee coming from India. His name is Gauranga Darshan Das. His Grace, Gauranga Darshan Das. He is an author, teacher, and monk. He has written several books on different topics, and he gives classes, also very interesting and very nice classes on different subjects. He will be here. Sorry. So Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, he will be here. So there are different programs which will be conducted at devotees' homes on Friday and Saturday, and Sunday he will be here in the temple. So please take benefit of his being here, his association, because he really tries to explain things in a very, very nice and effective way. So Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Now, is there anybody here for the very first time? Okay. Very nice. Thank you so much once again for being here. I would like you to introduce you to Krishna Sundar Prabhu. So after the class, which will be starting in few minutes, please meet him. There will be a small gift for you, and he will explain to you what we do here. And you may have some questions. He will try to answer them for you. Now, it's my pleasure to introduce our dear Krishna Archana Mataji, who is going to be our speaker for tonight. She is going to speak about cultivating transcendental knowledge. So, Krishna Archana Mataji has been in ISKCON for more than 40 years or almost 40 years. So, she started when she was a baby. So, let's welcome her with a loud Hari Bol. Hari Bol.
I came in 1989, so that is 34.
So when you cross 30, it is 40.
Oh, is that what it is? Hare Krishna. I think it's easier if the men are sitting on this side and the ladies are on this side, so it's sort of easier for me also to direct the class. And don't be afraid to come close. It's perfectly in order. So, Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Thank you. Gopi Jana Vallabha Giri Varadari. Yasodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana. Yamunatira Vanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Giri Varadari. Yasodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana. Yamunatira Vanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Giri Varadari Yasodanandana Praja Jana Ranjana Yamunatira Fanachari Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Kishore Kishori ki jai, Jagannath Baladev Subhadra Marani ki jai, Gornitai ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. So before we begin, I'll just chant a few invocation prayers and then proceed. Om Jnanatimirandasya Gananjana Shlakaya Chakshurimilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manopistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Tadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavam Shah Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Ragutam Vitam Sajivam Sadvaita Savadutam Parijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padansa Gana Lalita Shri Vishaka Vitamsha Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bando Jagat Pate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tata Kanchana Gorangi Radhe Vrindavanishvari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya eva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnebhyo namo namaha. Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimati Ramadaswami iti namine. Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami iti namine. Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Sunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine. The topic I was given was connecting to the Lord via jnana or knowledge. So this means there's got to be an examination of the dialogue that takes place between Krishna and Arjuna in chapter 4 of Bhagavad Gita. That chapter specifically deals with this topic. And I've entitled the class The Cultivation of Transcendental Knowledge, and it will become apparent as the conversation between Krishna, or predominantly Krishna speaking, but the conversation between Krishna and Arjuna ensues. So generally, a dialogue means, or it permits, an exchange of ideas, such that questions may be raised, an argument may be presented, some analogies or metaphors may be used, or it may permit comparisons to be made, so that further reflection can ensue. So the nature of the dialogue that takes place between Krishna and Arjuna has as its basis a certain connection, and that connection is the interrelationship that is of a disciple and a spiritual master. So we may have a dialogue in our daily lives that may be friend between friend, boss between worker, etc. But this is specifically a dialogue that transpires between a disciple and a spiritual master. So the role that Lord Krishna plays as the instructing spiritual master is one that he explains to Arjuna. And this is what Krishna says, because sometimes one needs to clarify one's role, especially if there's subject matter that's going to be covered that may be a little difficult for the hearer. So Krishna clarifies his role to Arjuna, and he puts it this way. I had previously instructed this imperishable science of yoga to the sun god. The sun god had instructed it to Manu, who in turn instructed it to Ikshvaku. So this is in the 7th text of the 4th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. So Lord Krishna tells Arjuna immediately that what his role is going to be, and that what he's going to actually do is something he's done long, long ago, and it's an imperishable science. The science doesn't perish. And Lord Krishna explains that this science is actually supreme knowledge. It's the ultimate in knowledge. So although it's received by saintly kings, so generally that is how the transmission worked. Those that were in positions of rulership, so overseeing huge kingdoms or countries, were the ones who were receiving this knowledge, because it was naturally the person being in such a position would be able to actually uplift the entire civilization or the entire kingdom that they were ruling through putting these principles into practice. So this is how the knowledge was transmitted in the past, or to whom it was transmitted. So again, it was always, there's a chain. The knowledge is going from spiritual master to disciple. And the interesting thing was, it appeared to have got lost. So at the time when Krishna is going to embark on this, imparting this knowledge, this extraordinary knowledge, it actually appeared that the knowledge had got lost. So, so on the basis of his relationship with Arjuna, Krishna makes a statement. And sometimes when we're going to have a dialogue with someone, we may announce what the topic is that's going to be covered, or what we're going to do, etc. So Krishna tells Arjuna, or he makes a statement, today I will impart to you that ancient understanding of the relationship with the Supreme Lord, because you are my devotee and friend. So you can see the criterion is being fulfilled here by Arjuna, because we heard Krishna understands Arjuna to be in devoted to him, so functioning in the role of disciple. And Krishna carries on, although the supreme science is very confidential, I shall instruct you. Consider this to be my ultimate instructions on Vedic knowledge. Follow these instructions, stand up and fight. So, there's earlier on, before coming to this 4th chapter, Krishna had made a very interesting distinction. And that is that he made his distinction between knowledge based on intelligence through an analytical study. So one has to analyze some subject matter, and thereby the knowledge comes to you. And other knowledge that's actually through intelligence based on devotional service. So he actually distinguished that there were 2 different kinds of intelligence. So Arjuna, he's actually directing Arjuna to fight. And earlier on, the analysis, so that knowledge that had been transmitted through using the intellect to analyze, had taken the following reasoning that Krishna had presented to Arjuna. So generally, when you want to present your viewpoint or an argument, you have to have a very good reasoning to show how one thought leads to the next thought. So early on, this was Krishna doing an analysis through using the intellect. So there's a careful presentation of a consistent argument. And this was the argument he had presented to Arjuna. O Partha, happy, so he's talking to Arjuna, happy are those Kshatriyas who take part in a battle that comes to him of its own accord, thus clearing the path to heaven. So that was in the 2nd chapter. So he's instructing Arjuna, you're a Kshatriya, you can be happy that some battle is presenting itself to you, because generally a Kshatriya can't wait to go into battle. That is their religious duty, and their whole psycho-physical being is geared towards fighting. Then Krishna says, however, if you refuse to take part in this religious battle, you will fall down from the performance of your occupational duty as a Kshatriya, and thus spoil your good reputation and incur sin. So a very grievous result or consequence is painted by Lord Krishna to Arjuna. This is how he's presenting his argument. If you don't fight, you actually are going to ruin your reputation as a fighter, and you'll be incurring sin. And sin because there'll be a failure to perform duty. And then Krishna carries on, O son of Kunti, if you are killed in this battle, you will go to the heavenly planets. And if you are victorious, you will enjoy the kingdom of the world. Therefore, get up and fight with determination. So you can see the emphasis on Arjuna needing to fight. He's even saying to him, so if you do actually engage in this battle, if you make that choice, and if you get killed, you're still going to be promoted to the heavenly planets. And even if you're killed, you'll be promoted to the heavenly planets. And if you're victorious and you're alive, you're going to enjoy the kingdom on this earth. So basically, it'll be a victory for you either way if you engage in the battle. So this was all in the 2nd chapter. And then finally, Krishna had ended that particular reasoning process by saying to Arjuna, you should fight considering happiness and defeat, profit and loss, victory and defeat is equal. In this way, you will not commit any sin. So he was encouraging Arjuna not to put his focus on just one thing. Oh, I have to win this war, or I'm going to lose this war, or I'm going to profit in this way, because Arjuna had many arguments of that nature. I'm going to cause societal difficulty because there'll be many women who are unprotected, and therefore there's going to be unwanted children, etc. Arjuna had many counter arguments. So Krishna had said to him, perform this duty, not focusing on what the profit will be, what the loss will be, what happiness there will be, what distress there will be. In this way, if you just actually perform your duty, you're not going to commit any sin. Now, that was one side of the equation of using intelligence in an analytical way. So Krishna presenting an argument to persuade Arjuna, or to present to Arjuna the necessity for him to perform his duty as a Kshatriya and to engage in the battle that was presenting itself to him. And now it is, in this particular section that we're looking at today in the 4th chapter, is developing intelligence based on devotional service. So this means that one has accepted the instruction coming from Lord Krishna and is wishing to perform one's duties or perform one's actions as a service to the Supreme Lord, to Lord Krishna. So, and intelligence comes from performing service to the Supreme Lord, or performing one's actions, one's duties as a service to the Supreme Lord. So there's a particular result that comes from this. We heard from the previous analysis that Arjuna would not incur any sin. And here, the particular result that comes from developing intelligence, performing one's actions in service to the Supreme Lord, it means that actually any reactions that come from one's actions are destroyed. So it's a very interesting, very subtle, very extraordinary result that comes from that. And this is how Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur explains if one is proceeding on that course of action and developing one's intelligence through devotional service. Srila Bhaktivinoda puts it this way: the process of Buddhi Yoga is one. When one's intelligence is applied to karma, it is known as karma yoga, and enters the phase of cultivating transcendental knowledge. It is known as Sankhya Yoga or Jnana Yoga. When one's intelligence surpasses the stage of both Karma Yoga and Jnana Yoga and enters the stage of understanding one's relation with the Supreme Lord, it becomes known as Bhakti Yoga or pure Buddhi Yoga. So I'm going to go into looking at this explanation given by Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, because this is the content of this particular topic of how you're going to develop intelligence through using your actions, thinking of your actions as a service to the Supreme Lord. So this is how Lord Krishna proceeds to explain it to Arjuna. And Lord Krishna is moving in the direction of applying intelligence such that transcendental knowledge is becoming cultivated. And that is in relation to work, karma, and in relation to jnana or knowledge. So he's going to go into both categories. How you actually develop transcendental knowledge in relation to actions related to work, how you develop transcendental knowledge in relation to activities connected to just acquiring knowledge. So Arjuna, he applies his intelligence and he raises a question. So that's the nature of dialogue. So Krishna had just made a statement, if you remember, a short while back, where he said how he had imparted the signs to the sun god and it went back. And this is what Arjuna says to him. So using his intelligence. The sun god Vivishwan was born at a very remote time in the past, whereas you were born recently. Therefore, how can I believe that you had previously instructed the signs to Vivishwan? So that's Arjuna's question, very intelligent question. And there's the room in the arena of a dialogue between a spiritual master and disciple for the disciple to raise intelligence questions, because the idea is to develop one's intelligence. It's a service one's performing to use one's intelligence. So then Krishna begins the cultivation of transcendental knowledge, and he establishes his position in relation to Arjuna. So this is how Krishna begins this cultivation of transcendental knowledge. He establishes his position, and this is how he responds to Arjuna. O subduer of your enemies. So he's praising Arjuna as a very qualified fighter, Kshatriya. Both you and I have taken many births. But because I am the Supreme Lord, I can remember them all. But you are a minute spirit soul, so you cannot remember them. Whenever I appear in this world, you eternally perfect devotees also appear with me to assist me in my pastimes. But because I am the omniscient Lord, I can remember all my previous appearances, whereas you cannot. So Krishna's making a distinction right away between himself and Arjuna, but he's also giving insight into the position of Arjuna as eternally connected to him, as a very dear devotee. But that distinction is, again, that Arjuna is a minute spirit soul. So his memory doesn't extend to his previous births. So the information of the Lord's many, many incarnations are given by Lord Brahma. So if one consults the Brahma Samhita, one finds Lord Brahma saying this: Advaitam Achyutam Anadim Ananta Rupam Ajam Purana Purusham Nava Yovanam Cha Vedeshu Durlabam Adurlabam Atma Bhakta Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami. I worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead Govinda, who is the original person, absolute, infallible, without beginning. Although expanded into unlimited forms, he still is the same original, the oldest, and the person appearing as a fresh youth. So one sees the almost irreconcilable on a material physiological level, the position of Lord Krishna. The oldest, but yet he's always appearing as a youth. And infallible without beginning. So these eternal, blissful, all-knowing forms of the Lord, because there's mention that he appears in different incarnations by Lord Brahma, are usually not understood by even the best Vedic scholars. It requires this kind of insight, this imparting of transcendental knowledge from the Supreme Lord, again, spiritual master to disciple, to be able to understand this knowledge. But for a very devoted personality such as Arjuna, there's that capacity to comprehend even the different forms of the Lord. Now, Srila Prabhupada explains why this is so. And he puts it this way. Whenever the Lord incarnates, the associate devotees also incarnate in order to serve the Lord in different capacities. Arjuna is one of these devotees, and in this verse it's understood that some millions of years ago, when Lord Krishna spoke the Bhagavad Gita to the sun god, Arjuna in a different capacity was also present. Now, isn't that extraordinary? That's if you understand what Krishna is saying. Arjuna's doubting Krishna's having spoken the Bhagavad Gita or the transcendental knowledge to the sun god, because it was so long ago, and here it is. Through understanding Krishna's position, one understands that actually Arjuna, as his eternal devotee, was also present there at that time. So, but he cannot remember. So Lord Krishna reiterates this distinction between himself and Arjuna. And he puts it this way: although I appear in this world again and again, along with you, there's a gulf of difference between us. I am the controller of all living entities. I'm unborn and I am imperishable, unlike the living entities. My pure spiritual form does not become covered by a gross and subtle body. So you see further distinction. One looks at one's own body, and Krishna's making that distinction. He's not having a gross body that's covering his subtle body. Krishna is all-knowing, all-blissful, eternal. We heard he's imperishable. The material body perishes. So again, that distinction is made. So Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he continues the distinction that's been made by Krishna because he's commenting on Krishna's statements in the 4th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. One may say, how is it possible to manifest a spiritual truth in this material world? Because after all, Krishna was in this material world having this conversation with Arjuna. So the reply is this: my potencies, Krishna's, are inconceivable and beyond the purview of mundane logic and argument. So even though Krishna's presenting in the past, remember, I did a whole analysis of Krishna's argument to Arjuna that had to do with logic of why he should fight. And now the emphasis is shifted to how it's necessary to have devotion to be able to actually understand and develop one's intelligence. So Krishna says, my potencies are inconceivable, meaning his spiritual strength, his abilities are inconceivable. And the living entities are born in this world under the control of my internal potency. That is why they cannot remember their previous lives. So I'll carry on. According to their karma, the living entities repeatedly have to accept material bodies, one after another, meaning they're suffering the reaction from their previous lives' activities. My appearance, whether in the form of a demigod or in the form of an animal, because Krishna appears in numerous animal forms, is completely out of my own will. So again, the distinction has been made between Krishna and the regular living entity. Of course, Arjuna is a very elevated living being. But here's that other distinction. One has no choice in taking birth. By virtue of activities performed in a previous life, one is obliged to accept another material body. So gross covering over the subtle body of the mind, intelligence, and the ego. But on the part of Krishna, he appears out of his own free will, and he can appear in the form of a fish, he can appear in the form of a demigod, etc. So adding to this argument is Srila Vishwanath, who states that the jiva is without birth in the sense that he's a soul apart from the body. So Srila Vishwanath's expanding on the understanding that actually the human being, he's a soul apart from his body, but he takes birth because of his relationship with his body, which produces ignorance. So the body is forced to manifest because of the necessity to live out the reactions from previous activities done. So the individual spirit soul, the difference between the individual spirit soul and Krishna is that the individual spirit soul is under the influence of their pious activities and their impious activities. And the Lord of the living entities is not under the control of karma. So that very important distinction is made by Lord Krishna. Then Lord Krishna gives a reason for his appearance in every age. Because remember, he's responding to Arjuna's question and he's covering all aspects. So now he gives a reason for his appearance in every age. I appear in order to protect the devotees. to destroy the demons and to re-establish Dharma. So that's from Bhagavad Gita 4.8. And Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur has Krishna saying, so this is one of our acharyas expanding on Krishna's statement. So he puts it this way, as though Krishna's talking: to protect my supremely dear devotees from the hands of non-devotees, I personally incarnate. I empower my devotees who are sages among kings and brahmanas to re-establish the principles of Varnashram Dharma. So Krishna is empowering what he's done in the past, the rulers, the kings, so that they can set up an ideal social division so it allows everybody to progressively advance in their spiritual life. Now, Srila Vishwanath explains that Krishna comes to perform feats that are very difficult for anyone else to do. He destroys evil-minded persons, and there's a good amount of narrations like Ravana, Kamsa, Keshi, who give suffering to his devotees, whose hearts are bursting. This is Srila Vishwanath explaining who are the devotees, whose hearts are bursting with longing and suffering due to their devotion. Because there's always that sense of separation from Krishna. And so Krishna establishes a particular dharma, because that's why he says he appears. And the dharma he establishes is one of meditating on him, worshipping him, and serving him, and singing about him. So that is the dharma that Krishna establishes. And if you come into any ISKCON temple, you will see dharma playing itself out according to how Krishna has wanted it to be established, and how those coming in the disciplic succession, like Srila Prabhupada, have established this dharma of meditating on Krishna, worshipping him, serving him, and singing about him. And Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur expands that Krishna says to Arjuna, from this statement that I also incarnate in the age of Kali, tells Arjuna, because that's the implication. If he incarnates in different ages, it means he's also incarnated in this age of Kali. So that's the implication. Because the incarnation in the age of Kali is supposed to distribute the most rare love of God by propagating the process of chanting the holy name, this incarnation is confidential. So not so easily identifiable. And he informs Arjuna this. You will also witness this incarnation and assist him in his mission. Because that was one of the points that Krishna had made, that Arjuna is an eternal devotee. So he was present way back when Krishna was speaking spiritual science to the sun god. And he's also going to be present at the time when the incarnation for the age of Kali, who's Lord Chaitanya, is there and will be assisting Lord Chaitanya. And he gives information that this particular incarnation will destroy the sinful mentality and sinful reactions of the sinful people of this age of Kali. So sadly, we fall into that category, very sadly. But he will not kill any of the demons in this incarnation. So that is something of Krishna's explanation of what happens with the incarnation, his incarnation in this age of Kali. So our worship of Lord Chaitanya as the incarnation who brought the chanting of the holy name means that our sinful mentality is being destroyed. So Krishna continues this cultivation of transcendental knowledge, giving the definition for an action that is transcendental, because now we're moving into the action part. And this is the definition for an action that's transcendental. An action when executed in full knowledge that Krishna is the supreme goal of all paths and is the one rewarding the results of work, makes that action transcendental. So one has to be carrying that knowledge. And Krishna tells Arjuna this way, O son of Pritha, As a person surrenders to me, I reward him accordingly. I am the ultimate goal of all paths of spiritual realization. And this is in the 11th verse of the 4th chapter. And Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he explains it this way. So we get this picture of how Krishna is the ultimate goal for all paths of spiritual realization. So for fruitive workers, persons who are just working in order to get the result of their work, I am understood as the bestower of the fruits of karma. So Krishna is the one who's going to be giving that reward for the results of work, or for persons who are just thinking, I want the results of my work. For yogis, I appear as the super soul and award their mystic perfection or their chance to merge into the existence of God. So for the yogis, that's how he actually rewards them, appearing as super soul in their heart. For those who are inclined to follow a path of voidism, wanting nothingness or an emptiness, I appear before them as void, and I make their existence void. So this is Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur speaking Krishna's words. Krishna helps them, the persons who are thinking, that they're actually aspiring for voidism. And usually the understanding is that relationships are very painful. So many yogis actually just want an existence of nothingness. That is the ultimate goal. So Krishna helps them by absorbing them into his effulgence. And Srila Prabhupada makes a generalization. He puts it this way: everyone is searching for Krishna in the different aspects of his manifestation. So the voidist may not have identified that he's searching for Krishna, but that is the case. The fruitive worker looking for the result is actually searching for Krishna because he needs that result to have some happiness, and Krishna's the one who's giving it. So Krishna is the object of everyone's realization. And thus, anyone and everyone is satisfied according to the desire to have Krishna. So it means that there's a reciprocation of feeling, an equal exchange between the Lord and the different types of worshippers. So Krishna has responded to Arjuna's question by describing his essential characteristics and the truth about himself. And now he touches on karma. Men in this world desire success in fruitive activities, and therefore they worship the demigods. Quickly, of course, men get results from fruitive work in this world. So Krishna makes that statement. He recognizes that category that are seeking him unknowingly. They're looking for the result of their work, and they take to worship of demigods who are known to actually provide the results in a quick way. In my early years in Krishna consciousness, I remember I used to be a little bit amused. I was residing in the Tawako Temple in New Jersey, and very often somebody would come carrying a very large coconut and place it on the altar and would say something like, I really want a Mercedes. And literally, that was why the coconut was being brought. So that was a mistaken thing, because they were bringing it in front of Krishna, not in front of a demigod. So there was a mistake there. So, yeah. Yeah, Krishna's position is different. So Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he explains that there are 3 kinds of karma or work: eternal, occasional, and impelled by lust. So karma, meaning one's work, performed with a desire for sense gratification, you want that Mercedes car perhaps, is better than inaction or sinful activity. So in order to achieve perfection in the performance of fruitive activities, where you want to get the result of your work, generally followers of the Vedas do worship demigods because they want to enjoy the fruits of their labor, just like the persons coming to the Tawako Temple. Of course, it was not demigods that were being worshipped there, but The insignificant demigods who are in charge, and this is the term used for them, they're insignificant in relation to Lord Krishna, who are in charge of awarding the fruit of karma, become pleased with those activities. So demigods appreciated when humans actually do, if that coconut had been offered to a demigod like Lord Shiva, Goddess Durga, the demigods would have been pleased. Because they understand that it's allowing for persons to make advancement in their temporary material life. So they give the desired result. And Srila Prabhupada, he wryly comments, this is Srila Prabhupada, that human society is mad after temporary things, such as the material opulence of possessing land, family, and enjoyable paraphernalia. That's Srila Prabhupada. He passes a wry comment that that's actually very common in human society. That's madness for these kind of enjoyments, very tangible enjoyments. Now, there's further knowledge in relation to karma that's given by Lord Krishna. He explains that there is no one other than he who's the controller of the four social orders. And why that's significant is because there's different qualities of work that happen among humans. So he puts it this way. Still, one should know that I am the non-doer and unchangeable, even though I'm the creator of the Varnashram system. According to the living entity's destiny, I have created the divisions of Varna through the agency of my energy Maya. Everything is carried out under my direction. So Krishna is saying, persons are taking birth with particular psychophysical nature, and then there's social division that they come to fall into. Krishna is saying that he creates that because, after all, if you recall, he had said earlier that he bestows the results that come from actions performed in previous lives. So he's the creator, but it's done through his energy Maya, but it's under his direction. So Krishna continues the cultivation of transcendental knowledge in relation to karma or work, and he puts it this way: I do not aspire for the fruit of action because the tiny results of karma are extremely insignificant. One who understands me to be supremely independent while simultaneously considering the living entity's detachment for fruitive activities will never become bound to the result of his activities. So that may have been a little bit of a mouthful, but it's basically saying that a man of knowledge engages in pure devotional service and thus attains my eternal shelter. That's what Krishna's pushing towards. Because one learns to have a detachment from wanting the results of one's activities just by taking shelter of Lord Krishna. And that's what distinguishes him from the demigods who are called insignificant. They're bestowing under Krishna's direction the results that persons are looking for, those results of their work. But Krishna, on the other hand, is actually giving them shelter and allowing them to get detached from wanting those results. So Krishna then moves into understanding karma on the platform of jnana, or knowledge, transcendental knowledge. So how you understand work or activities related to work on the platform of transcendental knowledge. And he gives a definition. One should try to understand the intricacies of action, forbidden action, and inaction. So this is a way to actually start to develop transcendental knowledge, to examine the different kinds of action that are there. So properly executing one's duty is called karma, or work. And engaging in forbidden actions is termed vikarma, and it leads to degradation. The non-performance of one's duties is called akarma. So there's a difference between deliberately doing an action that is forbidden, let's say a gross one like stealing. I mean, I've taken sometimes the bus to go to my home in Evanston, and I've seen a particular thing a few times. Sometimes persons will get onto the bus and they don't have the fare for the bus. And then they'll go into a whole explanation with the bus driver of how they bought this ticket, when they bought it, and how many there were supposed to be on the ticket. And the bus driver will just say, just go and sit down. So now that is forbidden action, because you're stealing. You're taking something without rightfully paying for what you're supposed to be receiving. And then, of course, that's different from actually not performing one's duties, which is obvious. One chooses not to work, which perhaps some of these people on the bus were doing, in addition to their sinful or their forbidden action, the vikarma. So Lord Krishna expands by giving confidential knowledge. So once again, it's very confidential knowledge, spiritual master to disciple, and he tells Arjuna, a yogi or a perfect performer of work is such that all the actions of a detached karma yogi are actually akarma, or the renunciation of work. So if one's operating with transcendental knowledge, all this explanation that Krishna had given of his position, the distinction that he's making between himself and humans, the understanding of the different kinds of actions that are to be performed, all this is transcendental knowledge. So that makes one a yogi or a perfect performer of work if one is carrying this knowledge. Then all the actions that a person carrying this knowledge is performing, it's actually action of a detached nature. And it's actually called akarmic action. Suddenly, there's not going to be the same reaction for one's work just because one is carrying transcendental knowledge. And of course, there's some criterion that has to be fulfilled, and this is it. One whose activities are performed without any desire for sense gratification. So you're performing those activities not thinking you want the results of those, the action you're performing. And also, all the reactions are going to be burnt to ashes by the fire of knowledge. That's actually what transpires, just by virtue of carrying this knowledge. The actions one's performing are actually not thinking of them as I want the results of that action, makes one a learned person, and it also burns to ashes any reactions coming from the action, just by virtue of the fact that one is carrying this knowledge. So whatever prescribed and prohibited actions are performed are burnt by the fire of karma yoga. That's how it's termed, just approaching one's actions with this understanding. And Srila Prabhupada gives two reasons why this is so. He puts it this way: by perfect knowledge of his constitutional position as the eternal servitor of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, it is to be understood that he has burnt up the reactions to his work. And because he's devoid of all kinds of sense gratificatory propensities. I found this very extraordinary, the statement of Srila Prabhupada, that all the reactions to one's work get burnt up just by virtue of the fact that one is reminding oneself that one is an eternal servitor of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. I mean, I find myself doing this often, and as soon as I put myself in that position, remembering that, everything always becomes perfectly clear. There's a certain detachment. It allows the intelligence to kick in. So that's how Srila Prabhupada puts it, that's the important part. Having that knowledge of one's constitutional position, one's relationship as a minute spirit soul serving the Supreme Personality of Godhead through one's actions. That's what's burning up all the reactions to one's work. So that's called karma yoga, carrying that knowledge. So a person keeps his body and mind under the control of the intelligence, and he gives up this endeavor for enjoying the fruits of his actions. So he just does enough work that keeps his body and soul together without constantly thinking about accumulating things. So in our society, particularly in America, there's a lot of emphasis on trying to incite persons to purchase more material objects. So, and there's pressure that's put on one, a lot of pressure, because the entire society, you know, wherever you look, there's somebody advertising, selling something. Um, so, um, functioning with carrying transcendental knowledge in relation to action, one remembers that actually one doesn't want to accumulate more and more. One wants to avoid that. So, in this way, one doesn't come under the control of performing pious or impious actions just by virtue of the fact that one's carrying this transcendental knowledge, and one develops a mindset of not wanting to accumulate, not wanting to enjoy the results of one's work. And finally, the prescription is given for attaining perfect knowledge. So we're almost at the end. By performing one's duties for the satisfaction of the Lord. So this is the prescription for attaining perfect knowledge. And that is to perform sacrifice, to view what one is doing as sacrifice. And sacrifice or yagya refers to activities performed for the satisfaction of the Supreme Lord in the course of one's performance of religious duties. So one can spiritualize all one's actions by remaining absorbed in devotional service and performing all activities as a form of sacrifice. So that's the final prescription for attaining perfect knowledge, because the topic was to attain perfect knowledge. So there's a little more, but it's time to end. Thank you very much for your very kind attention. And I know it was very intricate, but this is the fourth chapter and it was the topic. So thank you for your very, very kind attention. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Did we need to ask questions? No. Thank you very much. Please. Thank you.
So thank you so much, Mataji, for your presentation. And now, those who are here for the very first time, please, you can meet Krishna Sundar Prabhu, and he will be able to give you a little bit an introduction to our temple. And for others, the dinner is being served on the third floor. Please, you may go out and take the stairs. But please come back after the dinner because there will be a very nice kirtan going on here. And before you go out for your dinner, I have Leela Manjari Mataji with me. She would like to make a few announcements about the festival which we celebrated last week. Thank you.
Thank you. Hare Krishna. Thank you all very, very much for being here and for being there for the 50th anniversary. And I'm very grateful for your overwhelming support from each one of you. Thank you for being there. And I know that the Lord is very pleased because I have heard all the devotees are very pleased. So thank you very, very, very much. And what I've been doing is I've been going back and re-listening to some of the recordings because I myself was not present. I was running around here and there. So if you get a time, if you can get a moment of your time, please go back and re-listen to them. Everything that was spoken during those 4 days are gems, little pearls of gems. And when we listen to those devotees, we can immediately, at least I feel immediately like a surge of enthusiasm, like to serve Krishna with more vigor. So please take advantage of those discussions if you have missed them. And as a small token of appreciation for all of you who have supported the festival and who have volunteered in various capacities, we had t-shirts. How many of you received t-shirts? Can you please raise your hands? Yeah. And those of you who have not received but who have volunteered in any capacity, whichever capacity, please, we'll send a feedback form, or if you can give it to me directly after the announcement. Give me your size and your name, and then we'll reach out to you and we'll give you the t-shirts. That's our very, very, very small reciprocation. And um, yeah, so this project was just the beginning. Through the course of the next 1 year, we'll continue to gather more devotees to come and participate and celebrate the 50 years. So that will be the theme for our next year. And most important of all, we exceeded the funds for the festival. So that means we have surplus amounts, thanks to all of you. So those extra funds, with all of your permission, we would like to redirect to the elevator project, which Prem Sarovar Prabhu is heading. So whatever is the excess, somewhere in the range of 3,000 to 4,000 at this point, and we'll keep you posted. All of those funds will be directed to the elevator project. Thank you all very, very much. Hare Krishna.
Yeah. So before you go, just one, there is a saying that behind every successful man, there is a woman. I would like to modify it a little bit, that behind every successful event, there is a woman. And behind the successful KK50 was Leela Manjari Mataji. So let's give her a big hand. Hare Bo!
Now let's. I think the true credit, actually, I don't know if there are pujaris, if they have finished. The true credit actually belongs to the most youthful woman, Srimati Kishori. So give let's let's dedicate this project and all our upcoming projects to Shri Kishore Kishori's pleasure. Shri Kishore Kishori ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Hare Krishna.
Okay. Please, bon appetit, and then come back for the Kirtan program, please. I'm coming.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Om Agnana Timirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Jaya Kishore Kishore, Jaya Kishore Kishore, Jaya Kishore Kishore, Jaya Kishore Kishore. Jaya Jagannatha, Jaya Baladeva, Jaya Subhadra Devi, Jaya Sudarshan. Jagannatha, Jaya Baladeva, Jaya Subhadra Devi, Jaya Sudarshan. Jaya Gauranita, 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 Jaya Gauranita, Jaya Gauranita, 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 Jaya Gauranita, Nitai Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaura Hari Bol, Nitai Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol.
Hare Krishna, everybody. Thank you for being here. So, something very special and very beautiful about the activity of Sankirtan. The beauty of Sankirtan is that it's something that we do together. San stands for Sangha, and Kirtan is the activity of glorifying Krishna. So, we can do Kirtan, but we do Sankirtan is all of us. And it's so powerful that it's described as the most powerful means of connecting with the absolute truth with Lord Sri Krishna in these times, universal times, Kali Yuga. So this Sankirtan is recommended. So I want to request something for you. Can you come closer to me? Come as close as you can so we can have this type of connection with each other and we can sing together. So the experience of Sankirtan is very powerful because when you have, imagine, when one person sings the glories of Krishna, Krishna listens to it. But imagine that synergy when so many of us come together and chant together. Then the synergy, the spiritual synergy is much more greater. And if you tune into that principle, the experience is also much more greater. So we can sing together. I'm going to start with Prabhupada's melody is very simple to follow. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, 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 Hare Hare. Krishna, Krishna, That's beautiful. Sing, sing. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, 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 Hare Hare. Krishna. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Chan Chan. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Holy name. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Oh, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Oh. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Hare. Sing, sing, sing with your heart, everybody. Hare Krishna, oh. Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Oh, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Hare. Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Harinam, Harinam. Chant, chant and be happy. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Krishna Om Rama Hare Rama, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Oh. Chan Chan Chan. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare, Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Hare Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare. Oh, holy name, Chan Chan. Oh, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Oh. Oh. Oh, Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare. Hey, Hare Bo. Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare. Bolo Govinda Jaya Jaya Gopala Jaya Jaya. Govinda Jaya Jaya Gopala Jaya Jaya. Oh! Govinda Jaya Jaya Gopala Jaya Jaya. Govinda Jaya Jaya Gopala Jaya Jaya. Govinda Jaya Jaya Gopala Jaya Jaya. Govinda. Govinda Jaya Jaya Gopala Jaya Jaya. Govinda Jaya Jaya Gopala Jaya Jaya. Govinda Jaya Jaya Gopala Jaya Jaya. Sisi Radha Ramana Hari Govinda Jaya Jaya. Bolo Radha Ramana Hari Govinda Jaya Jaya. Govinda Jaya Jaya Gopala Jaya Jaya. Govinda Jaya Jaya Gopala Jaya Jaya. Radha Ramana Hari Govinda 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 Jaya Jaya. Govinda Jaya Jaya Gopala Jaya Jaya. Govinda Jaya Jaya Gopala Jaya Jaya. Govinda Jaya Jaya Gopala Jaya Jaya. Bhaje Radha Ramana Hari Govinda Jaya Jaya. Radha Ramana Hari Govinda Jaya Jaya. Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare. Hare Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna Krishna. Chan Chan. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare. Hare Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare Rama Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare. Hare Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare. Hare Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Oh, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Oh, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Chan Chan. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna. Baje Radhe Govinda, Jaya Radhe Govinda. 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 Bhaje Radhe Govinda, Jaya Radhe Govinda. Oh Radhe Govinda, Jaya Radhe Govinda. Bhaje Radhe Govinda, Jaya Radhe Govinda. Oh Radhe 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 Govinda. Radhe 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 Govinda. Govinda, 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 Govinda. Govinda, 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 Govinda. Govinda, 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 Govinda. Govinda, 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 Govinda. Oh, Radhe Govinda, Jaya Radhe Govinda. Radhe Govinda, Jaya Radhe Govinda. Govinda Hari Gopala Hari. Double. Govinda Hari Gopala Hari. Govinda Hari Gopala Hari. Govinda Hari Gopala Hari. You can try this. Govinda Hari Gopala Hari. Govinda Hari Gopala Hari. Govinda Hari Gopala Hari. Govinda Hari Gopala Hari. Oh, Govinda. Govinda Hari Gopala Hari. Govinda Hari Gopala Hari. Govinda Hari Gopala Hari. Govinda. Govinda Hari Gopala Hari. Govinda Hari Gopala Hari. Jaya Jaya Sachinandana Gaura Hari. Jaya Jaya Sachinandana Gaura Hari. Jaya Jaya Sachinandana Gaura Hari. Jaya Gaura Hari, Jaya Gaura Hari. Jaya Gaura Hari, Jaya Gaura Hari. Govinda Hari Gopala Hari. Govinda, chan chan chan. Govinda Hari Gopala Hari. Govinda Hari Gopala Hari. Jaya Jaya Nanda Nandana Shama Hari. Jaya Jaya Nanda Nandana Shama Hari. Jaya Krishna Hari, Jaya Rama 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 Hari. Jaya Nanda Nandana Shama Hare. Jaya Jaya Nanda Nandana Shama Hare. One more time. Jaya Jaya Nanda Nandana Shama Hare.